Guess who's back? It's another math episode from Mr. Mac. Alright. So, task number 3%, applications. Let's go ahead. Charlene bought new living room furniture that was 10% off the regular price of $3,250. The sales tax on her purchase was 8.75%. We want to figure out the total cost of her purchase, including the tax. Let's go on. So I started the question by highlighting the key important information. And what we see is that Charlene gets 10% off the regular price of $3,250. So we first need to figure out what's 10% of $3,250. Now the good thing about these instructions is that you're not forced to use percent proportion or percent equation. You have choice. So my natural default is a percent proportion. I'll throw in some percent equations as we work throughout task number 3. Now, since it's 10% off the regular price, alright, 10% off means we'll be paying a total of 90% of that regular price. We don't know what that represents, because 90% is not the whole thing. It's a part of it. But we do know that the whole entire price is $3,250. So it's up to us to figure out what would the 90% of that price be. So we're going to go ahead and cross multiply. Once we multiply, we get 292,500 is equal to a 100x, and we got to undo that multiplication by dividing both sides. And we find out that x is equal to 2,925. Meaning that 90% of the price, or the new price after the discount, is $2,000, $2,925. Now, from that price, we now have a sales tax. That sales tax is going to bring the price up. So this is the part that I'm going to have some fun and utilize our percent equation. So I'm going to start by first writing down the percent equation for the next part of the question. Now, keep in mind, to conclude the question, I want to use 8.75% sales tax. Think about what sales tax does to the price that we're looking at. Alright, we have $2,925. That's the new price that we're looking at. And we want to include 8.75%. So, first thing I want you to think of is, now since that's the price, we want to increase the price. So we take that 100%. We add that 8.75%, we get a total of 108.75%. That's the new percent. Alright, in order to find out the total cost, including tax, this will be the percentage of cost. We're now going to have to go ahead and set up this percent equation. So that 108.75%, we convert it into a decimal so it can fit into our percent equation, becomes 1.0875, and that now becomes the value we put in for our percent. So let's do that at 1.0875, and that's going to be multiplied by our new whole, which is going to be the new price after the discount, which is $2,925. That should be able to give us our part. Now let's cook. We found out x is about 3,180.9375. But since we're talking about money, alright, we need to round to the nearest hundredth. Alright, the rule is if that number is 3 in the hundredth place, after it, if that number is 5 or above, we need to give that number 3 a shove. Or if that number after the 3 is 4 below, we just let it all go. In this case, that 7 is 5 or above. So we need to give that number 3 a shove. So x is going to be 3,180.94. That will be the total cost of Charlene's purchase, including tax. Question number 2. Ms. Garcia buys a $58 sweater that is on sale for 20%. A. How much money does she save? B. What is the discounted price of the sweater? So I'm just going to go ahead and highlight some important information. That's the price of the sweater. We're dealing with 20% off. We don't know how much money she's going to save. And also, what is the discounted price of the sweater? Alright, so with this question, I'm actually going to start off by using our percent equation, since I started off with the percent proportion last question. So let's go ahead and write down our percent equation. But right before I jump into that, keep in mind Ms. Garcia is getting 20% off the original price of $58. So first we need to figure out how much money she's going to be saving. So since the sweater originally cost $58, that's going to be representative of our whole. The percent they gave us is 20% off, but we want to figure out how much is that. So that's known as 0.2, aka 0.20, and we don't know the part, meaning we don't know how much she's going to be saving. So when I find out 0.2 times 58, I believe we find out that X is equivalent to $11.60. That's how much money she's going to be saving. And now the next thing we want to figure out about is what is the discounted price of the sweater, meaning once we remove that $11.60. So we take our original price of $58, we subtract $11.60, and that gives us, I want to say, about $46.40. All right, and that's it for this question. Question number 3. Lacrosse Limited buys lacrosse sticks from a manufacturer at wholesale price. So that's the original price that they're purchasing it for. The store's markup rate is 75%, meaning from that they're marking it up 75%. We're trying to figure out what price does Lacrosse Unlimited charge its customers. So how much are they going to be selling these lacrosse sticks is basically what they're asking us. So let's go ahead. Finding the markup amount. Lacrosse Unlimited applies a 75% markup to the wholesale price of $160. So first we need to figure out how much is the markup. Or we can go straight to it. And when I say straight to it, keep in mind our wholesale price is representative of 100% of the price. That's its original price. So we have our 100% plus the additional 75% markup that they're giving you. That means we're going to now be paying a total as a customer of 175%. All right, so let's get back to our percent proportion. And when we do that, we end up getting this as our percent proportion. Now let's go ahead and start substituting in some of these values. That 160 represented our whole. This right here was our percent before we added the 100. So our real percent now is going to be that 175% because we're trying to figure out the total price, including the wholesale price and the 75%. The wholesale price percentage, which is 100%, plus the markup percentage, which is 175%. So we're going to substitute that into our proportion. Over 100, we don't know what the part is, but we know that our whole, meaning our wholesale price, in this case, is $160. Now we need to solve for X to see what are they charging the customers for these lacrosse sticks. We move on to the cross multiplication, and again, this is really to show you how businesses work. Their goal is to buy it for low and sell it for higher so they can make a profit. So when we do that, we cross multiply and get 100 times X, which gives us 100X equals to 160 times 175. Now look at me bringing in the old school multiplication symbol. And we get 100X is equal to 28,000, I want to say. We undo the multiplication by dividing both sides by 100. Cross these out and we find out X is equivalent to $280, which would be the price that they're going to charge for lacrosse sticks. Question number 4. Mrs. Marzoka used Target Red Card to save 5% off her Target order. Let's just highlight that because that's some important information. Shout out to Target. If she paid $18.75 after the discount. So to understand the context of the question, Mrs. Marzoka received a 5% discount, meaning she paid 95% of the original price, because that's 5%, off of 100%. Therefore, the final price after the discount is going to be a number that we need to figure out together. So let's go ahead and do that. So on this question, we're going to start with the 100% minus 5%, which means she's paying 95%, as we just mentioned, of the original price. And we're going to use the percent equation on this one. So let's go ahead and write that. So there goes our formula. Again, keeping in mind, if we're going to be using this, our percent gets changed into a decimal into this formula. So it goes in there as 0.95. We're trying to figure out the original amount of the order, so we don't know what X is. But we have the part which is representative of 118.75. So we need to go ahead and figure out what X is. So I divide the left side by 0.95, I divide the right side by 0.95, and I find out that X is going to be equivalent to $125. So the original price of her order was $125. Now I do want to go back and just show you this as a percent proportion, just so you can see it, because I know a lot of us are just used to that. So let's go ahead and show that. I start by writing the formula, and then since it's 5% off, I realize I'm paying 95 on this month, so I'm paying 95% of the tab. I don't know what the whole price is, so that W is still going to be a variable, but we still have that 118.75, which is representative of the 5% off, aka the 95. And that's when you go ahead and cross multiply. And when we do that, we get 11875 is equal to 95x. Divide both sides by 95. We get X is equal to $125 to represent the original price. Alright, just wanted to show you that really quick. Question number 5. Josie earns 2% commission on all sales she makes at the department store she works at. She sold the following this week: this amount for shoes, this amount for clothing, this amount for jewelry. We're just trying to figure out how much is she going to earn in commission. So in order to do that, we need to figure out what was her total sales for the week, because she's going to be earning 2% on her total sales. So we add 1,250 plus 2,649 plus 5,495. I believe we get a total of 9,384. Let's go ahead and double check that. Okay, so it's legit. Josie's total sales for the week are $9,384. Now, since she's going to get 2% commission out of that, we want to figure out what's 2% of that value. So we start by writing our percent proportion first. You want to ask yourself, is Josie going to make all this money from the store? Or is she going to make a part of it? Since she's getting commission, she's getting a part of it. So when we set up our proportion, we start substituting in the numbers in. It's 2% out of 100. That needs to be equivalent to the part we're trying to figure out of the whole, the total amount of sales. And that's when we can go ahead and start doing our cross multiplication. When I do my 2 times 9,384, that goes on one side. And on the opposite side, we have 100x. Now we need to figure out the product. We end up getting 18,768, which is equivalent to 100x. We want to divide both sides. Since 100x is multiplication, we want to undo the multiplication with division. And we end up finding out that x is going to be equivalent to, you just got to move your decimal over 2 places, $187.68. So Josie earns $187.68 in commission this week. Not too bad. Alright, question 6a. Prices for several pairs of sneakers are listed in the table below. The table shows the regular price P and the price with tax T. We want to see which formula can be used to calculate the price with tax. So the one thing we know about when we're dealing with tax is that, as you can see, when we go from the regular price to the price with tax, it's increasing. Anything doing the opposite is probably contrary to what we need right now. So automatically I know that I can start deleting some items, and that's just me using some of my brain. Alright, so choice C definitely can't be a choice. Alright, we need to find the formula that's correctly going to calculate the price with tax from the regular price. So let's check one of the values. Alright, the regular price is $40. The price with tax is $43.40. To find the tax amount, what we want to do is we can subtract the values. when we subtract the values, we see that, okay, that gives us about $3.40. Now we need to find the tax rate. So as a reminder, $3.40 is our tax. To find out the tax rate, we take that $3.40 and we divide it by 40. Once we do that, that ends up being 0.085. And what that represents is that there is a 8.5% tax rate. So that's just the tax rate. Now remember, well, I want to convert our decimal to a percent. So now we need to calculate what's going to be the final formula. Since price with tax includes the original price plus an 8.5% increase, we're going to end up using the equation T is equal to P, which is the regular price, plus the 0.085, that's our tax rate, of the original price. Now just remember that there is an invisible 1 here. So when I go ahead and combine the like terms, 1p plus 0.185p gives me a total of letting me know that this price with tax is equivalent to 1.085 times p, or 1.085p, and that ends up being choice D. Alright, it would not be choice B because that was only representative of 8.5% of the original price. That would be lower than the regular price and the regular price with tax. It would not be P times 0.85 because that would be 85% of the original price. So that's why we end up with choice D. Question 6b. Prices for several items at American Eagle are listed in the table below. The table shows the regular price P and the sales price S of these items. Which formula can be used to calculate the sale price? So let's just highlight two main things. Alright, we want to calculate our sale price, and for instance in the first situation it's $33 and it dropped to a sale price of $26.40. Alright, so let's just keep that in mind. Now when I look at some of my answer choices, the first thing I want to point out is if I add a 0 to these values, alright, taking the original price and subtracting 80 cents from it is not going to have me go from $33 to $26.40. So that's a no-no. And also, taking the regular price and subtracting 20 cents is also not going to give me the new sales price. So those two are automatically excluded. We're stuck between A and B. We need to find the formula that correctly calculates the sale price from the regular price. So let's check with that 33 and that 26.40. When I find the difference between the both of them, 33 minus 26.40 ends up giving us a difference of $6.60. That right there is going to be the discount. Now if we want to find our discount percentage, we take that 6.60 and that's what we can divide by the original price. And that gives us the discount percentage, which equals to 0.20, meaning that there was a 20% discount. So to find the correct formula, what we need to do is say, okay, in order for me to find the sale price, what needs to happen is I'm taking my original price and I'm going to be subtracting that same 20% of my original price. Now, as I mentioned before, there's an invisible 1 here, and when I go ahead and do my work, I say, all right, that sales price is going to be equivalent to P times 0.8. All right, I'll put a little X here. All right, and just as a reminder, that's also equal to 0.8p, but since that's not an option, this right here will be our answer, which is answer choice B. All right, that basically means we are paying 80% of the original price after subtracting 20%, utilizing that. So choice B is our correct answer. Alright, another thing I do want to show you all is that if I take this regular price, if I substitute it in here, that will allow me to find out 20% of it. Over here, I can substitute 33 in there and I find 80% of it. The cool thing of doing 33 times 0.80 is I get the 2640. So that's just a nice cool way to check over your work. Taking the number, substitute it in for the variable p, as you can see that's p, and you'll get your answer. Question number 7. Your boy Mr. Mac is shopping for school supplies. The cost of his school supplies is X dollars and he receives a teacher discount of 15% off his total purchase. We're going to circle not one but two expressions below that represent the discounted price of Mr. Mac's school supplies. Make sure we show work to justify our answer. The first thing I want to highlight is that Mr. Mac is getting 50% discount on school supplies. So that means he's paying 85% of the original price. So to find that, the first thing I like to always do for myself is just write that out just so I can visualize it. 100% is the original price minus the discount of 15%. That gives us 85% that Mr. Mac is now expected to be paying. To find the discounted price, we subtract the 15% of X from the total price. So you can kind of think about it like this. 1X, or 1 times that original price, minus 0.15 of the original price. Alright? From there, you think about it as, alright, 1 whole times the original price is the original price, minus that 15% off of that original price. That ends up giving us 0.85x. Alright? Because he is paying 85% of that total purchase. So the whole purchase minus 15% of his purchase means he's paying 85% of his purchase. Now let's take a look at the answers that we have here. This one right here matches with this expression. There is none with addition, and there is none with just 0.15. So that 1x is invisibly hidden right here, minus 0.15x is what provides us with our answer. And this means that the expression x minus 0.15x and 0.85x both represent the discounted price.